viewers, and welcome to yet another exciting and thrilling episode of the Orange Hub podcast, proudly brought to you by Say What and supported by Amplify Change. My beautiful name is Panashish Batamoto, also known as The Dynamite, and it's always a good time when I get to be on your screens and we talk about issues that are affecting us as young people and how best we can maneuver in these changing situations, especially when we have so many emerging SRHR issues. And I'm not alone. I don't like being alone. I don't ride solo as usual. So joining me are think tanks, brilliant minds, also minds that are going to be helping me unpack the topic today. Remember, we are talking about leaving no one behind. We're talking about SRHR for everyone, ensuring that everyone is included and they also achieve their SRHR rights. So welcome to the Orange Hub podcast.
Thank you.
All right. So I want you to introduce yourselves to the viewers that are watching. So you tell them your name, where you're coming from, what you do, what makes your heart race, because young people always want something that makes them, engaged and all. So tell us what makes your heart race. I know probably you're young at heart, but if you're in your 80s, what would make your heart go bump, 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 bump? So yeah, I'm going to start with you.
Great, thank you so much. So my name is Hannah. I'm here from the UK.
Right.
This is my very first time in Zimbabwe. So it's been a real kind of brilliant, eye-opening journey to spend some time here. I'm a grants manager with Amplify Change, and I'm here kind of bringing together a lot of the partners that we have for a kind of 2-day meeting, which we're in our second day, so that's great. And in terms of what makes my heart race, it's the same reason that I've been doing this job for the last kind of 7 years. And I was a young person when I started out. I've just aged out of that. But I think, just advocacy and this kind of continuous fight for essentially bodily autonomy and rights for every human, because regardless of any factors or any labels we place on ourselves, that's what we are at the end of the day, right? We're all just human. So I think it's that drive that keeps me here and keeps me invested in the work that we do.
All right. And how's been your stay in Zimbabwe?
Oh, it's been great. It's been colder than I thought. But I did come in winter, so maybe I should have been prepared and packed a coat, but it's been absolutely fascinating, and I've had time outside of Harare as well, so I've got to explore some different districts and kind of see how different things are, just even moving like 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers outside of the city. It's been really, really interesting and eye-opening for me.
Welcome to Zimbabwe.
Thank you.
All right, and to you also, please tell us your name, what you do, what you're well known for. You're very well known in the streets. So tell us what you're well known for in the streets. We want that.
I don't know about the streets, but my name is Onward Gibson. I'm the director for an organization called My Age Zimbabwe. We work with young people in issues to do with sexual and reproductive health and rights. We're also doing a lot of movement building work with a lot of youth-leading and youth-serving organizations in terms of concerted advocacy for sexual and reproductive health, but also looking at different internal and external capacities for those organizations to thrive. And what makes my heart race, I think it's just to see young people thriving. I want to see young people making the progress that they need to be, but I also want to see young people not as always part of the of the menu, but also being at the table.
Okay. All right. And you left a very important part of what I asked you. What are you well known for in the streets? That part is very important.
I don't know. I'm a podcaster. My podcast does a lot of conversations around relationships. I'm an advocate. My advocacy is mainly known, around amplifying the voices of young people.
For me,
Unless
he's
if
a
there's
celebrity.
something.
For me, he's a celebrity. And I love that for you. I love that
Thank
for
you.
you. So I'm gonna start with you onward. You're in the SRHR space,
Yeah.
and I want to know what made you want to get into that space. Besides you seeing young people thriving, what was the drive behind you saying, you know what, I want to get into the space and make as much impact as you have been making, because I need to really applaud you of the work that you have been doing. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So we started My Age Zimbabwe when I was 19, and we are celebrating. We're celebrating 10 years now. Of course, that's the 10 years after registering, probably after 4 years as well. So you can also try to guess my age. But when we started as a theater for development group, which was, young people that were interested in poetry, drama, dance. So it was just a community club. But then when we were doing everything that we were doing, we tried to look at things that were affecting us on a daily basis, because we would have group members come, and one of us has an STI. Group members come, and girls are not allowed to just come and be with us for rehearsals. Then another girl probably has been beaten by their boyfriend. I'm using these terms because those are the terms that we that we knew. Another one is HIV positive. And then we started using our art to express ourselves. But beyond expressing ourselves, then we realized we needed services, we needed to be protected, we needed to have more knowledge around what has been happening to us. Then we had to engage community leaders, parents, teachers, government departments on these issues. And before we knew it, then we became an organization. And the journey has had its own challenges, but I think we are proud of the work and the impact that we have been able to do in the past 10 years.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for that. And I'm going to come back to you, Hannah. Amplify Change has been supporting SAYWHAT's work and other CSOs. So probably I want to get a feel of why you have decided to support these movements and what really stands out for you in the work that you're doing.
Sure. I realize I didn't kind of introduce Amplify Change a little bit, so maybe that'll help answer some of this as well. So as Amplify Change, we're a challenge fund. We support organizations across Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East, looking to improve sexual reproductive health and rights with an emphasis on the rights. We're an advocacy fund, so we're not looking at funding specifically a lot of service delivery. There are others doing that. We also don't necessarily believe that that's the most sustainable way to fund. If we're looking at just funding, contraceptives or menstrual health products, for example, for a couple of years, what happens when that funding stops, right? Wouldn't we rather be pushing funding into organizations such as some of these brilliant groups that I've had the privilege of meeting in Zim, who are really working on policy and law change and kind of advocating their local governments for, budget line provisions for youth-friendly services, or kind of more favorable and inclusive policies and laws to really kind of ensure that no young person, no marginalized voice is left behind in kind of long-term change. So I think that is, that's at the heart of what we do. And as Amplify Change, so we fund civil society, right? What we strongly believe, and, I personally strongly believe, and Amplify Change do, is we fund grassroots civil society voices, centering them as experts in their own right, because is it for me to, I'm from the UK, is it for me to sit in the UK and say, you know what, I think this will work in Zim, so I think everyone should be doing this, or working under this way that I've come up with. And that's just not the case, right? So we emphasize working with communities, and what we do is we really find organizations that are community-led and community-focused, because they're in the communities, they can identify the needs of those communities. They are ensuring that, the solutions are suitable for the communities. I mean, we've heard a lot on this podcast already, but, it's what I think has become really apparent is our entry points are really different. We're all working with, a lot of us are working with young people, but a lot of us are working in rural communities, in extractive sectors, with the queer community, and one size does absolutely not fit all in the country, let alone across all of those intersections of people that we work with. So I think, for us, it's really important to continue just listening to communities, letting them come to us and say, this would work for us, this would work in our environment, and us saying, okay, cool, like as long as there are certain parameters that you can fit within, as is the nature of funding and being an international donor, which we try to be as flexible as possible with those. But it's your ideas. You come to us with ideas for sustainable change, and kind of we fund them. So I think that's kind of most important for us, particularly has been during my time here in Zimbabwe.
All right. Thank you so much, Hannah. And I love the fact that you emphasized on sustainability, which is very key and important in the work that we are doing. And I'd like to then go to you onward in terms of issues of funding. So how has been the funding landscape in relation to SRHR?
Yeah, the thing we see in the past years that, there's been a lot of demand for funding. I think the first one is in a good way that we are seeing young people coming up with solutions, but that's also increases the number of, organizations that, that need funding. But I take it from a positive side because that is happening, because communities are realizing that they need their rights, they need to be active in terms of the development of their communities and society. But then what then it does is that there's then more demand for that funding, which is actually dwindling, by the end of the day. Currently, we are grappling with, the funding cut, especially by the US. But we're also seeing more, more countries in the West also, reducing that and cutting funding as well. And I think it's a call for me. It's also a call for us to, there's been the look out, but also the look in. The look in looks like we need to really make sure that we do the best in terms of utilizing the funding that is there to bring out the impact that we want to see in the community. But the look in also looks like we also need to make sure that we strengthen, our processes. I think in the last podcast, I saw you asked about internal and external. But internally, we need to also have, strong processes, policies that also makes our organization account and being accountable for the resources that are there. But now we're also looking at pushing also our governments to make sure that they are true to their commitment. Zimbabwe is a signatory to the Abuja Declaration, which compels the country to make sure that its budget, national budget, there's 15% allocated for health. We need to look at that. We also need to look at, partnerships with the private sector in terms of, getting more local resources. But there are also conversations that we are having with our partners, either our funding partners or our downstream partners in terms of social enterprising. How can we take advantage of our local expertise to make sure that we also do business unusual in terms of making sure that we put in, ways to make sure that we also generate income for our organization. But also just to applaud some of our funding partners like Amplify Change. They have a very strong component. I think the grant that helped our organization a lot is the capacity strengthening grant, where we then had to look into our policies, look into our processes, look into our governance, and strengthen that. And that has helped our organization a lot to actually stand and to also, be able to sustain ourselves. I think through stronger processes, stronger procedures, stronger policies, but also stronger resilience and stamina, and also strengthening our fundraising strategy.
Right. And I don't know if I should say thank you so much for doing them.
Yes.
Hey,
Thank you.
We're not doing the work. You're doing the work.
All right. I think you brought up a very important point when you mentioned about the US funding. I remember when it happened, some organizations had to close. And I want to hear from your own perspective. What does it mean as a nation in relation to our health budget or SRHR related? What does it mean for us when we have situations whereby we also have organizations that are closing because, US has decided to say, you know what, we're not funding you anymore?
Yes, what it just means is that we need to realize that, there is just a certain point where anyone is going to help you. The honest truth is that when you go to the US, when you go to the UK, where this funding is coming from, you get there and you also see that there are problems that are there, that also those countries, need to take care of. When you look at the US, it's also a part of the US people actually saying, you know what, we have our problems here at home. We can't keep on, funding USAID. They also have justification, for that action. So I mean, it's also a call to us as a people. It's also a call to us, our governments, to actually also prioritize, the health and the rights of its citizens. Because you realize that there were people that were on antiretroviral therapy because of the US program. You realize that there was a lot of, referral facilities that were actually fully funded by PEPFAR, fully funded by UNAIDS, under CLM and other programs. So that work currently has died. And you see the country, especially of Zimbabwe, had reached the 95 targets on ending HIV. So what it means is that if our government is not going to step up and support that work, it means as a country we are going to lose the gains that we have had to realize over the years. So I think we should be able to prioritize ourselves. What this program is, these programs have left us at some point, those channels, those community referrals, it's work that we can still do, some of the work in our communities. So if government is able to chip in, then we'll be able to continue seeing ourselves thriving.
Brilliant. I was going to ask you, Hannah, what do you think about that? But then realized you're going to say, oh, well, I don't know about Zimbabwe, so I'm not going to say anything. All right. So to you, Hannah, Amplify Change, the main idea that we've seen you guys pushing is to ensure that SRHR is inclusive and there's also intersectionality in it. So how do you ensure that your funding programs meet that?
I think that's a really interesting question. So as Amplify Change, we fund across the kind of broad spectrum of SRHR. So we have 5 kind of key thematics that we focus on, youth being one of those, but we also kind of work on access to services, we work on eliminating GBV, we work on ensuring safe and holistic abortion services, and we also work on eliminating stigma and discrimination. outside of that, anything that you could kind of loosely fit into SRHR, we work on. We do menstrual health work, we do LGBT work, we work with sex workers, menopause projects, etc. So it's all there. And I think for us, we accept applications. As I said, we're a challenge fund, so we put out a call for applications and we accept them on, quite a competitive basis. I was only speaking yesterday in the meeting around the increased demand that we're feeling as a result of kind of shrinking funding space, because we're seeing, a huge volume in applications that, we've also always had a large volume of applications, but it's bigger than we anticipated. And I think it's, I could accredit it to a few things, but I would say that one of those would be kind of other funders pulling out of spaces where they used to sit. But I think for us, ensuring that there is no one left behind, there's some kind of strategic decision making, I would say, around when we're deciding, when we're reviewing applications in particular, we're looking at ensuring there's, a good kind of spread across our thematic areas. So we're wanting to make sure, that there's a good percentage of our portfolio focuses on young people. So it's not just I like what you said, Onward, around the, not being part of the menu, but actually being at the table, right? And I think that you could apply that to any of the marginalized groups that we work with. So with young people, for example, that's a fifth of our portfolio. So we're wanting to ensure that stays that way. Within our stigma and discrimination portfolio, a lot of that work is with persons with disabilities. It's also with people from the LGBTQIA plus community. So ensuring that kind of stays at a good level as well, and is really responding to needs. And I mean, that for us, those kind of portfolios or those thematic areas, they ebb and flow based on the demands in those countries. We've seen real spikes in applications from countries that might have brought in some harmful legislation, be that around queer people, young people, persons with disabilities. So we see kind of the demand go up there, and we try and respond to that as best as we can. But for us, it just comes back to hearing what the problems are with the community, and if they're identifying a need or an exclusion, if it's a project that we can fund, then it's us looking to provide resources to be able to do that.
All right. And I think at the end of the day, you want to see change. You want also to see results. So, I'm going to put you in a very tight spot.
Oh, no.
So you're working with these CSOs. We're talking about SAYWHAT. We're talking about My Edge and several other CSOs that you're working with. Are you seeing the change that you've envisioned from the first day that you sit down and you're like, we want to do this for them? Are you seeing the change that you wanted?
So yes, hard question, but I can respond. So I think everyone who's been here on this podcast today has kind of said the same thing, right? Advocacy takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. And we have we're not all sat there wearing rose-tinted glasses thinking that tomorrow, you send us an application one day, the next day you're going to change a law. We absolutely do not think that is the case. And so change takes time. Advocacy work takes time. I think that it is... we are seeing change, and I think it depends. I think everyone measures change in a different way, right? And as Amplify Change, we look at social norm change. We value social norm change very highly, which feels like a natural measurement when we're working specifically with communities. So, if you are working with traditional leaders, for example, and they're starting to include young people in their conversations, or they're starting to welcome trans people into the community, like that is changing lives. That is real, tangible change. And I mean, we ask our partners to capture and document change. And I think we're asking you all to do a hard thing, hey, when we're saying, we're not necessarily interested in numbers of beneficiaries or, the amount of people that you've reached. What we're interested in is those stories of change, right? Like hearing from those trans folk who now might be able to go and sit in spaces that they couldn't sit in before, or hearing from those young people who are actually at the table and involved in decision making, not in a tokenistic way, you know. So we're asking you to kind of capture stories. We're very interested in that kind of qualitative kind of output. But yeah, I think change is happening. Change is happening everywhere. And yes, we do see policies and laws being changed in countries that we work in, and we can accredit some of our funding towards that. But we're not doing the work. We're giving money for change, and then it's communities that are doing the work. So yeah, I think change is on a scale, and for us, you know, it's the reason that we have our small funding rounds. We have opportunity grants all the way through to our partnership grants, and our opportunity grants, we're offering kind of you know, amounts of money to even unregistered organizations that might not have done this work before, but they have a really great idea and they have been able to kind of write something that shows us that, yeah, we could make change in our little community, in our district, and you know, that's good enough for us.
All right. Thank you so much, Hannah, for that. And I would like to address this question to you onward. You know, you said the funding landscape, so you might just wake up the next day and you don't have it anymore. And I want to understand, in terms of sustainable change, how best can organizations ensure that they have sustainability in their programs? You know, we have these programs where we are, young girls are being given sanitary wear, but because we don't have that funding anymore, we no longer have girls receiving those sanitary wear because there is no funding. So how best can we ensure that organizations remain sustainable and they ensure sustainability in the programs that they will be running?
All right, thank you so much. I think for me, the thinking is not really within the sustainability of the organization, but I think sustainability of our footprints in the community, for me, is the most important. Say when funding ends, let's say there's a day that funding is no longer there. What's left is the community, because we have existed because of these communities. So if that young girl, you know, is empowered, that they know their rights, they are going to still demand them in our absence, and they are going to, you know, still have access to spaces, to resources, and amplify their voices. I think we would have done a lot of work. So that's what I think. Let's do what we can to empower our communities so that they may be able to raise their voices when they can. They may be able to still speak to policy change when they can, because when the policy is going to change, then we are going to see long-term, you know, sustainability. When Anna is talking about, you know, those stories, and when she says that we look at, you know, the impact that the organization has done. I think it's in the policies that we are able to change. It's in the people that we are able to empower. So you give an example of sanitary wear. I think then when we think sustainability, we should not only think about giving that girl sanitary wear every month, but then we should also probably teach them to start making them in their own communities with locally available resources that are there. And then we see how we have had a program where young adolescent girls and young women in schools, working with the schools, we brought machines into the school. We taught not the girls, but we taught the fashion and fabric teachers that would be there, and the department is there in the school for the longest run. So instead of them coming first term as Form 1s to start sewing, you know, other things, dresses and so forth, they start sewing sanitary wear, which they can use, which the school can sell to those that can afford, and they use the money to actually buy more materials. So we then have created that chain. The funding for that program was just for 1 year. We have not been able to find funding for that program. but the program has been going on for 3 years now. So I think if that was the end of that project and we couldn't sustain it in terms of getting more funding, but the community is benefiting in the long run. But like what I said before, at organization level, we should also think, how do we sustain the organizations, which is another, different but also important layer. And that's through the concept that I talked about, social enterprising. If SAYWHAT is going to open up this studio that has been there probably because of a project that was there to the corporate world to actually come and do podcast, it means that SAYWHAT will get income, and that income will still fund, sexual and reproductive health programs for students and youth. So that's my thinking around sustainability.
All right. Thank you so much. And I always say this over and over again. It's not about quantity. It's always about the quality of work that we are doing. And as your parting words, Hannah, what would you like to say to the people that are watching right now?
Oh, that's a tough one. But I think I'm speaking on behalf of myself and Amplify Change here. But I think hearing everyone today, spending time with our partners, I think that it just becomes more and more evident that real sustainable change has to be led by and rooted in communities. It cannot be influenced by external factors. So I guess this is kind of a call to, or a plea for folk to continue being honest and, coming to us, allowing us to hear your stories, to listen to you and learn from you. And I mean, as Amplify Change, we're continuously learning and evolving. We have multiple kind of ways that we listen to our partners, but tell us your stories, tell us what you need, tell us why we're not doing something so well so that we can start doing something well.
And to you onward, what would you say are your parting words to the people that are watching from home?
What I can say is that maybe just a message to young people mainly is that believe in yourself, believe in your voice, believe in your potential. You can do as much when you believe yourself. And I think to organizations that are there, I think funding cuts should not be, an end to the work, good, beautiful work that that we have been doing. But I think let it also, shape the conversations that we are supposed to have. Also shape the resilience that we are supposed to build, as well as the creativity that we are supposed to use in our work. And I think since we are having a conversation with Amplify Change here, who is one of our donors, I think just to thank them for the work that they've been doing, especially also looking at the capacity strengthening bit of funding communities. I think it will also even go well in terms of building the resilience and the agents that we are supposed to have. And I hope that they are not cutting funding as well. But to everyone that is watching, but the future is young. Young people are the leaders of today and tomorrow. And let's support their needs, especially when we look at sexual and reproductive health. And youth leadership, I think, should be, when we put that at the core of the agenda in the nation, we have an opportunity to reap the benefits that will benefit our economy at large. And to you, thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you for being amazing, and stay amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And they say a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But for me, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a decision to take that step. So for organizations that have taken that have made that bold decision to say we need to support young people, we need to make sure they have access to services, SRHR services, we need to really applaud them for the work that they are doing. And yes, you're watching the Orange Hub podcast, proudly brought to you by Say What and supported by Amplify Change. My beautiful name is Panashe Batamoto, also known as the Dynamite. TikTok time is no longer on our side. So please do make sure that you reach out to us on our toll-free number that is 577 for psychosocial support, SRHR services, and child protection solutions. From me, the Dynamite, and the beautiful crew behind the scenes. See you next time.